some assistance this year, as she's just started the recording. So there you go. But as we go through the presentation today, obviously I've been doing this youth service presentation and this youth service in this youth service role for at least the last 4 years, if maybe one more year beyond that. And it's been a great thing. I love Rotary for being able to be a part of youth service, and will continue to be involved in youth service. I am looking for some additional help to join the kind of the planning committee. We try to meet monthly to get youth service activities information out to all the clubs, and that's what I'm going to be going over today. And I have a short PowerPoint together. For those that have been in, my youth service meetings on a monthly basis, much of this is going to seem familiar, obviously, and I hope that's by design. We've done a lot of these meetings to get you the information in a timely fashion at the right times, and so this is going to be more of an overview for some of our newer youth service chairs and youth service champions that will be taking over their club leaderships here in this upcoming Rotary year. But with that, Naomi, if it sounds like everyone's kind of here, we'll go ahead and get started. And we've already started the recording. So again, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Ryan Char. I'm the District 5000 Youth Service Chair. Before I go ahead and share the PowerPoint, it'd be great to just kind of quickly go around the room and ask, who you are, what club you're from, and if you're an incoming chair, if you're just an ongoing youth service chair, if you're just a youth service champion and interested in youth service in your clubs and trying to find different ways to make an impact. If we go around really quickly, and I'm very curious to know just who I'm speaking to today, this morning. It's a little bit of a different format. Before, these assemblies used to be in person at an elementary school on your island, and it was more presentation style. With the Zoom and with the virtual, I have a chance to be a little bit more inquisitive to all of the participants. So if I can just ask, I'm just going to call on folks and just I'm interested to know. So I can just kind of help answer any kind of questions or try to tailor some of the information to you today. So can I just start with, Mike Curtis?
Hi, I'm Mike Curtis from the Rotary Club of Poipo Beach. Been a Rotarian for about 40 years. My kids' Christmas, we host 100 child and family service kids at a Waimea Theater, give a bento breakfast, age-appropriate movie, and give gifts to each of the 100 kids, bought and wrapped by Island School high school kids. The other thing I'm passionate about is Rotary Reader. When they closed the plantations on Kauai, there was a lot of unemployment, and one of our members figured that some of the young boys don't have men to read to them. So we tried to put male reader into kindergarten, first and second grade in Kaloa School, and I still read to the first graders. And it's probably the best hour of my week in many of my weeks. But I'm incoming president-elect July 1st.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks, Mike. Glenn Bailey.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Glenn Bailey, past president of the Rotary Club of Honolulu Sunset. And this year and next year, I'm the community service chair. We have several that encompasses all the different avenues of service. We do have 2 adopted schools that we do a lot of projects with each year. We have the ROTC at Farrington High School, which has been giving support to for several years, and just like to listen to other ideas today.
Great, thanks. Naomi. Everyone knows Naomi. Peter.
Hi, everyone. Peter Evans, Rotary District 5000 Youth Protection Officer. I am your Youth Protection Officer. I've been with Rotary for about 10 years, started out with Rotary Club of Honolulu. I am now with the Eco Rotary of Kaka'ako, having a lot of great time there and with the district. So Been your district Rotary Youth Protection Officer since 2017. And so we look forward to working with all of you folks. So thank you.
Sure. Great. Thanks, Peter. Al, good to see you.
Hi, Ryan. I'm Al Weiland. I'm Assistant Governor for the Maui Coastal Clubs. And I'm with the Rotary Club of Kihei Wailea, interested in how to promote different types of youth service projects. We have a project in our club that's called Imua Readers that involves reading coaching for first graders who have been identified by their teachers as not reading at grade level. And last year in the school that we were doing it, every single student at the end of the year was reading at or above grade level. So the group felt very good about it. We've expanded this program to a second school now and would be interested in other clubs that would like to take up this type of a program, as reading illiteracy post-pandemic is endemic now. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Arlene.
Hello, I'm the AG for West Oahu from the Kapolei Club, and here for a refresher. It's been a while.
All right, thanks. All right, Kyoko.
Aloha. I am a board treasurer for Lahaina Sunset, a very fun group. We're like family, and we always need to learn. There is always room for learning.
Great. Sounds good. There is. Thank you, Jim.
Hi, and good morning. I'm Jim Hovind from the Rotary Club of Honolulu Sunset, and I'm a Rotarian for 35 years. I am past president of the Pearl Ridge Rotary Club and the Honolulu Sunset Rotary Club. I'm the treasurer, been treasurer for the last 4 years, and probably for the next 4 years if things keep going the way they are. My concern is, how do we fund these programs? And so I come from a different perspective, but that's my goal.
Great, thanks. And James.
Oh, hey everybody. Hey, I'm amidst parenting right now, so apologize for the lack of video. But anyway, I'm with the Rotary Club of Honolulu Sunset as well. I'm another James in the club, but I'm also past president. I'm also the district international service chair, and I know that youth service is something that is kind of important to me because I have a child now, but also just in our community, and also want to touch base on international kind of projects potentially, since I'm the district international service chair, and how we could kind of approach youth internationally. That's why I'm here.
Great, thanks. And last, Kevin.
Good morning, everyone. Kevin McCrary, Rotary Club of Ala Moana. I'll be, I guess, repeating as the Youth Services Chair. I got thrown into it last year after our chair left the club. So hoping to start fresh and learn from the beginning what I stumbled throughout the year. Anxious to hear some of the ideas. I like hearing about the reading programs, so I'm actually interested in learning maybe a little bit more about those programs. So looking forward to those ideas and getting a fresh start, and hopefully do things a little more effective for the second go around.
Great, thanks a lot, Kevin. All right, well, thanks. I like sharing that because I like everyone to kind of hear what, where clubs are coming from and what clubs are doing. I'm going to share my screen right now, and I just realized I'm on the wrong slide, but I will just still share it. Here you go. And so just thanks for joining again. Just again, a little bit about who am I. I'm with the Honolulu Sunrise Rotary Club. I work for a company called G70. Our club, our Rotary Club, sponsors the Roosevelt High School Interact Club, the Mid-Pacific Interact Club. And so we, those are two of our long-standing youth service programs and projects that we have within our group. And we also do a bunch of reading as well to both Royal Elementary and Lincoln Elementary. So reading seems to be a big theme. I think it's definitely something we can talk about here in a bit. But since everyone here is kind of pretty familiar with Rotary and Rotary Youth Services. I'm going to go very briefly over some of the programs that are on the screen here today. And this is mostly for the recording for folks that want to come back and watch this presentation at a later time, at maybe more kind of a Rotary, new to Rotary or Rotary 101 situation. But I think the biggest thing I wanted to just start off with was that this committee's purpose and the group of youth service chairs that do meet on a monthly basis, I hope find value in the meeting because they find ways to make a bigger impact in their communities. And I think Ted kind of laid out the role and the goals this upcoming year about having a bigger impact. I think the ideas that we generate here are things that can enable us and our clubs to try new things and be more present, more engaged with our community through these various programs, obviously, first of all, but through other partnerships and programs that are available. And I think that also speaks a little bit to kind of his last goal, which was to adapt, to be adaptable, to try new things. My role is not to tell each individual club what to do for their youth service programs, right? And I think that's always been my message to everyone here and has attended my meetings before. My goal is to support you all and find ways that the district can support you. And yes, that involves kind of creating opportunities for all of us to get together. But at the same time, if you have something that your club is interested in doing, if you want to share that out with the world and of the Rotary District 5000 world, I'm happy to do so. The Eco Club of Kakako is very good at it. They just sent me another email reminding me that they want to remind everyone that they're trying to do stuff with lunch out of landfills. That's a program where they take cafeteria waste and lunch waste out of schools and use it for composting or other things or recycling, and they try to keep it out of the landfills. And so I'm going to be trying to gather some information from them and sharing that all out with you. I think it's a great program. Some of my Interact Club folks took some project grant funds that we gave them. We gave our Interact Club at Roosevelt some project grant funds, and they actually installed some composters that they're using with their gardening club and their cafeteria right now on their campus. And so just ways to kind of take ideas from other clubs, take ideas from other programs, and work them through and engage your Interact clubs, your youth service organizations to help create a bigger impact and have a bigger impact. So I'm going to go through this really quickly, and then we'll have some time for questions. We'll have some time for Peter to give everyone a little bit of update on youth protection. Obviously, youth protection is a very big, important piece of what we do as well, because as you can imagine in today's world, there's a lot of challenges that we deal with in making sure that our youth are safe in all the different activities that they do. But with that, I'm going to just remind folks that Interact clubs here are not just for high schools. I think that's just the main point I want to make here is that you can have middle school Interact clubs, and we've done quite a well here in the district, starting middle school Interact clubs, particularly tied to our junior RILA program, so RILA, but for our middle school students, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So if you have a desire to work more with your middle school students, please come talk to me. I'm happy to let you know how to be more engaged with our middle schools and trying to start a middle school Interact club if that's something that interests you. But I think the other things I just wanted to remind folks with our Interact clubs is that they do need strong club leadership, both from your students, your Rotary Club, as well as the DOE. And I know that's a bit of a challenge, something that we've tried to brainstorm in the committee. For those that are not in the committee, if anybody has any ideas how to make better relationships with your schools, stronger relationships with your DOE advisors and faculties in the areas, I'm happy to report back on them. I think that the district level, we are still trying to make inroads with DOE leadership to try to find ways to make some of those relationships stronger. I just had a conversation with someone from a youth service task force, a leadership task force that's been put on by Zone 26 and Zone 27. You heard Ted kind of allude to that. We're obviously part of a bigger zone, as our district is just the state of Hawaii. They gave me a suggestion about actually Rotary clubs providing grants to their DOE advisors to have the DOE advisors have some flexibility in spending the money with the Interact clubs. And I think that was an interesting thought. It does, obviously take a little bit of grant writing or budgeting with our our specific Rotary clubs, but I think the unique thing about this would be, a lot of DOE faculty members do have stipends. They do have budgets for some of the other extracurricular activities that they do. Obviously, I don't think we can pay our DOE faculty for being an advisor, but if we can give them a little bit of grant funds to help do projects with the Interact clubs, and they see the value of some of those resources coming in to support their Interact clubs, I think that could be one way to attract an advisor over at the DOE. So some tidbits of information that I'm getting from some of our partners on the mainland. I talked a little bit about that here at the bottom. A couple of years ago, we actually did do some grant funding for our Interact clubs. Every year in my club, I always budget about $1,000 to get supplies, resources, tools, whatever our Interact clubs need to do their service projects. I always make sure that's part of our grant funding for our year that comes from the district. So if that's something that you can, make a part of your grant program at your clubs to keep your Interact club engaged with you, that's always a good thing as well. Our Rotaract clubs are we need more of them. We'll put it that way. But our Rotaract clubs opportunities for us here at District 5000, I think are very unrealized in terms of how much more we can grow this, how much more opportunity we can grow this. And I think the changes that RI has made recently with Rotaract has been very beneficial because it's no longer kind of just a college-based, university-based program now. It can be up to, I think it's, Naomi, it's 40 or 45. You can actually have you can actually have Rotaract members that are young professionals into their late 30s and up to 40, I believe. And so
Right.
There's
no upper limit.
now
So
there's no upper limit, right? So I think there's actually Rotaract is actually a similar membership or the same membership. They're considered Rotarians basically at this point. And so we have an opportunity to engage young leaders and young professionals from, after college on to be involved in Rotaract that, may not be fully ready yet for a Rotary club. But I think the goal would obviously not have our Rotaract club members be in Rotaract beyond the age of 40. We transition them into a Rotary club at that point. But still a great way to have a networking group of young professionals in your companies, in your networks, networking with people outside of their fields. And I think that's always been something that brings value to them and something we can help as a district grow. One of the more active Rotaract clubs here in the state, the Rotaract E-Club Ohana, has asked me to do in the last couple of weeks is find ways to have them support our Interact clubs. And I think that's always a very interesting way to do things. And so what they want to do is they want to bring mentoring, they want to bring leadership training, they were very heavily involved in RILA on Oahu this year in terms of volunteering and doing some of the games, the programs. They want to take some of that skill set that they've learned, the skill set they've kind of honed through RILA leadership training. They want to take it directly to our Interact clubs. And I said, please do. That's a great idea. And I've always thought, that if we can build a pathway from Interact in middle school to Interact in high school to Rotaract in college to Rotaract in young professionals and to Rotary as seasoned professionals, that would be our goal. And that would be something that we could strive for here in the district. And I think bridging the gap between Interact and Rotaract is a very good first step here. And if you have an Interact club that's interested in talking to or participating with a Rotaract club that's established here on island on Oahu, please let me know. I'm also, finding ways to see how we can grow Rotaract on our other islands as well. And so I think that's something that there'll be a lot of interest in and a lot of planning coming up here in the next couple of weeks. For those that are not aware, we did actually, the district does have an Early Act program, did have an Early Act program. I don't think there's any particularly active Early Act groups now, but if they're is a desire to work with elementary schools to do community service and introduce the idea of people of action, service above self at an early age. I think that's something that we can support as well. I know Mililani groups have had interest in starting early act clubs in their elementary schools, but it's important for these early act programs that the families are involved, and so that's something that we're keenly aware of, and just making sure that when we do this, that it's done with the most opportunity for success. But I think for me is just to make sure to just stay involved, create that magic, as Ted has introduced the upcoming Rotary Years theme, because I think Rotary does open doors for our youth in many ways, and I've talked a little bit briefly about a lot of these different opportunities and ideas in terms of keeping your youth engaged, keeping your youth clubs engaged, reaching out and creating that bigger impact. Some of the things I haven't mentioned, obviously, do joint service projects. If you have clubs in your areas, I have a couple of AGs here. If you guys can plan a club project where you can invite your youth organizations to them and do a joint service project, please do. I think the students are always a lot more engaged when they have other people from other schools to interact with, and it just makes it more fun for everyone involved. And I think the other thing I want to talk about was just purpose-driven projects. What I'm finding, and even here at work, even here at G70, where we do architecture and engineering, a lot of my staff, a lot of our younger staff, they're driven by purpose, right? They're not so much driven by just the interactions and the networking and the job benefits and all those other things. They want to make a difference, right? They want to make a bigger difference, and they want a purpose to kind of drive them there. And so if the projects are more than just saying, hey, we're just going to do a beach cleanup, I mean, that's great. Obviously, I'm not against beach cleanups, but if you can give them a theme, if you can give them a greater purpose of environment. So if you're doing a beach cleanup one month, and then you're working in restoring a fish pond in another month, you're doing low-E plantings in another month, if you can give them a theme of environmental and sustainability, that's something that I know resonates with folks. My Roosevelt Club has been really trying to do purpose-driven projects with Kupuna, and I think that's something that they enjoy, and so every club's going to be a little bit different. Find what works for your clubs and try to make that work. I'm gonna try to just briefly go over Hawaii Rotary Youth Foundation. I think everyone is very familiar with the program. It's been very, very obviously successful and continues to be successful. The way that the leadership there has changed the way that scholarships are funded here in the upcoming future is very important. So I want to touch briefly on that. There is a minimum $20 per capita member goal of fundraising to qualify for the full $5,000 scholarship, and this has been in effect for the last year or two already. But for clubs that are not aware, just make sure that your club is meeting that $20 per capita requirement of fundraising for HRYF by the end of this Rotary year. So that's June 30th, 2024. You've got another couple of months to do that. That ensures that your club is able to give out a $5,000 scholarship for the upcoming Rotary year, the 2024 to 2025 Rotary year. If you don't make that per capita goal, you're still eligible to give out a scholarship. It's just going to be at a reduced amount. So I just want to make sure that folks are aware of that. And then I think I just continue to remind folks that in the upcoming years, as we've just wrapped up our HRYF scholarship giving this year, please invite them to your clubs, give them the certificate that you're going to get mailed to you very soon. Follow up with your awardees, keep in touch. You have an alumni base probably of the last 20 to 30 years, potentially, of scholarship recipients in your club. Invite them over when they're back for a meeting, back for summer break, or invite them to a meeting. Invite them to a project, a service project. Get them to join a Rotaract club in their college that they're going to as they do leave out to college. We have their email addresses, we have their phone numbers, we have their contact information. There's really no excuse for any of our clubs to really not be in touch with our HRF recipients. And I just want to remind folks to try to bring them in. as much as possible. And there will be a summer event this year to recognize the current group of applicants and awardees, I'm sorry. So more info on that will be coming up. RILA is a big part, and I'm trying to get through this quickly because I want to open up for questions and some brainstorming. RILA is a big part of the youth service programs that the district kind of supports every year, and RILA has been on every single island in the past. This year we did fairly well, except unfortunately RILA Kauai was canceled due to just low interest at the time. But I know Cyrus, who tried to put that on this year and was ready to go, is going to continue to push with all the schools over on Kauai to get RILA Kauai going. But my goals for each of the clubs is to really just continue to sponsor junior RILA and RILA in your locations. Join the committee if you are interested in helping to plan it. This year's Hawaii Island RILA was very successful in getting new presenters and new folks, new Rotarians involved in their RILA planning committees and in their RILA programs. And so Jen Tanoy over there she wouldn't join us here today, but she can obviously be a great resource for all of us to help find ways to bring new membership into the RILA planning and RILA execution. One thing that was thought of this year, and I think I'm going to try to push for next year, is to try to do a junior RILA and RILA combined event sometime during your on-island RILAs. So RILA usually occurs during February of the year. Obviously, we just finished ours a couple of months ago on Oahu, and the other islands have finished theirs. But there was some thought about bringing some of the middle school students to RILA this year to have them participate just for a short morning event or short presentation, to have them attend some of the speakers. Just one way to get both the kind of an outreach where we have not just our high school students with RILA, but with middle school students and junior RILA as well. It does cost money, so if your clubs can continue to support them financially, each RILA program financially, that'd be great. But obviously, it does mean something to these students, and so the way that we can keep it for free for them is going to be the most way to keep RILA successful. Obviously, RILA is just another pathway into Interact Rotary and Rotaract. But for more information, you can always go to rilahawaii.org. That's kind of our statewide statewide kind of website for folks to get information. But I just want to give a real quick update on RILAs around the state this past year. On Oahu, we did it at Camp Erdman, had 39 students. We had Rotaract and Rotary volunteers. The generous donations of the Honolulu Club here on Oahu, they did give out scholarships at RILA, which was really exciting and unique this year. Addition to the speakers, they did do a 4-way test speech contest. They had games and they had a lot of fun. On Hawaii Island, they had 29 students. They did it at Halepohaku on Mauna Kea, so a little bit different, not at KMC this year. So they were at a higher elevation. They were at elevation 9,000. There was a limited amount of space, and so they were packed to the brim there at the facility, and it did. They were able to get a bunch of Rotarians from different clubs on both sides of East Hawaii, West Hawaii. They were able to get students from both East Hawaii and West Hawaii, and they were also able to, like I mentioned, include their newer members into the program. And so I thought that was great. Maui Island, I forgot exactly where it was located on Maui, but they did get about 18 students there, and several of them were actually from Lanai. So they did actually fly over from Lanai and participate in the RILA camp, and then they flew back. And so I thought that was very successful for them as well. Virtual junior mini RILA, we call it a junior RILA, something that they've done virtually over the last few years, has been a catalyst for us to start some middle school Interact clubs, and just been a very successful event in getting our younger students in kind of interested in Rotary and Interact. I think, Naomi, you're on the planning committee. I don't know if the planning committee has met anytime recently, but we'll be looking to see what this program consists of this upcoming year. And I still am very much on board with an idea of trying to do a junior RILA event with your main RILA sometime in the spring, as a kind of a way to do a junior RILA for middle schoolers. I want to spend a couple of minutes here talking about partnerships because we do obviously do a ton of partnerships, and Rotary has some really great networks and opportunities here. Youth Exchange, Tom couldn't make it today either, but we have had a very successful Youth Exchange program. Tom Gross is our Youth Exchange coordinator for the district. And I think I know last year they had a couple of students coming in, incoming and outgoing in Hana. They were able to go to Brazil. I think we had some in Italy as well. And so the important thing Tom always reminds me to tell you all is that for us to send students, we need to host students. And so that's the only way that Rotary International is going to send students our way, is going to allow us to send students out, is that if we're receiving students on exchanges as well. So the biggest way that your clubs can support us is being a host family. Find some time and some way to rotate amongst the club members. I know several of our club members in Honolulu Sunrise have rotated exchange students, and so they haven't had them for the full period. They've actually rotated them amongst host families. That's definitely possible. Find a way to host a student here so we can also send students out to youth exchanges from Hawaii as well. There are other youth exchange programs through Rotary. It's actually, you can actually do a youth exchange for folks that are older than 19. I don't know if we've ever done any. Tom hasn't done any, I think, yet. There are less requirements for obviously hosting and sending out students in the age that are older than 19, but that's possible as well. But obviously, all of our host families will have gone through the appropriate youth protection requirements. Rotary and Toastmasters is, I'm going to move on from Youth Exchange. Rotary and Toastmasters is also, been a partnership that's been available to us. We haven't taken advantage of this as much as we probably could, but if you're interested in increasing your youth's public speaking skills, reach out to me and I can put you in contact with Toastmasters clubs here on Oahu or wherever in the state. And they do have programs where they can do public speaking training for your Interact clubs. And so that's something that I think is definitely valuable and something that we can offer to our students. College and career readiness. We've done a couple of college and career fairs before. Obviously, Rotarians are subject matter experts in a variety of different careers. What I found is that for Rotary and Rotarians to make this of interest, you really have to ask each individual Interact club kind of what they're looking for in careers and what they're interested in, because I think what hasn't been successful in the past has been when Rotarians kind of go and just say, hey, I'm in this career, this is what it's all about, right? The Interact clubs, the youth service clubs, there's not always that interest for that particular field or that particular vocation or whatever it might be. Work with your Interact clubs to figure out what careers are interest to their members and see if you have someone in your club that can speak to them. Other things that my youth service clubs have told me that they're interested in is if we can help them connect to internships, that's something that they're very excited about too. So if you through your professional network can say, hey, I've got some Interact club students that are interested in internships or just even job shadows or coming in to do a shadow for a day or do a week-long shadow, like, can you offer that to someone in my Interact club? That's something that the Interact students are very interested in. So if that's something you can offer them as well, that'd be great from your Rotary clubs. Mentorship speaks a little bit to some of the career and other things there. I do have some Rotary clubs that are interested in putting on mentorship programs for youth. I'm continuing to work to develop those. And this would be something that's more one-on-one. I think it's, I know there's some stigma around the youth protection side of things, about the one-on-one, but I think just the message is that it's more personalized. It's something that's going to be more of a regular basis, that if you can have Rotarians mentoring youth, on a more kind of weekly or monthly basis on a smaller level that's more personal, the students would also be interested in that as well. So stay tuned. We'll try to see if we can get some more information there. I think some of you have heard about Pledge to Our Keiki, Kanu Hawaii. This is another program that Rotary District 5000 has kind of worked with in the past. It is Volunteer Month this month, actually. It's tied to Earth Day. But Kanu Hawaii does have a program called Pledge to Our Keiki, which is actually supported by the Department of Education. And through this program, it's intended to connect folks like us, Rotarians, with students in the schools as a pledge to make sure that we're supporting their future, that we're not doing anything that's contrary or that's detrimental to their future, and that folks like us, organizations like us, like Rotary District 5000, or if it's Bank of Hawaii or whatever organization, that their pledge is to support programs and efforts and service that will benefit our keiki, that will not harm our keiki. And there's a lot of different ways to kind of leverage this organization. One of them being it is a volunteer platform. It's an opportunity to reach people outside of Rotary to help volunteer on your projects. But it also could be a funding and partnership a resource as well, to get volunteers from other organizations to support you in a different project. You can actually reach out to other major participants on the Pledge to Our Keiki website and the Volunteer Month website, like Southwest. We actually did have a chance to ask for some free flights over to from Hawaii to Oahu, and Southwest was interested in supporting. They couldn't do it at the time, but they were looking to potentially support us in the future. And so there's obviously different ways we can leverage the resources within that organization. This upcoming October, we're doing Hawaii Children and Youth Day again. It's always been something we've done on island here in Oahu. But there are children of all ages out of 10, and it's one way to share just a little bit about what Interact and Rotary does. And we've had several attendees there interested in Interact, and hopefully they go back to their schools and join their Interact clubs there. And finally, I just want to mention that we've participated in the Schools of the Future conference before. I'm hoping that we have some opportunity to participate in the future. But if your club wants to put on a booth at Schools of the Future conference, it is another opportunity to reach students and administrators from the DOE. That's going to be happening, I think, this year, November in 2024. The district did have a booth last year. We talked to quite a bit of people there. I know everyone's competing for attention and competing for projects and volunteers, and so this is always a good place to be represented. I did get several people just grateful that Rotary was there, and grateful that we were investing in our youth, because both project-based and service-based learning opportunities are something that administrators are looking forward to including in their curriculum. So I'm here to also just talk and brainstorm any other ideas. I've been talking for quite a while, so I'm gonna pass it off to Peter really quickly to just go over youth protection at a very, very high level for folks, to just remind them that this is something that's an ongoing thing that we have to upkeep with just making sure that we're up to date, best policies, best practices. And so, Peter, I'll let you take this over, but just some points that I had here on screen, and you can definitely speak to them and anything else that you'd like to speak to. But Peter.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for being here, especially on a Saturday morning. It shows your commitment to our Rotary District, your clubs, and especially being in this breakout session. So I applaud all of you for being here. But it's all about the things we do. And Ryan spoke a lot about mentorship. Mentorship is what we do. It's a big part of our outreach. It's part of why we chose youth services to have an impact on. And how do we integrate youth safety, youth protection into the services that we do? Mentorship brings many opportunities for us to help shape the youth within our communities. So what we want to do is make sure that how we shape and the experiences that are the youth that we come into contact with is always positive. So why do we keep our keiki safe, and why is youth protection safe? Everyone has their own current view. We all see youth protection differently based off of our experiences, our values, etc. These are a lot of things, a lot of points that we bring up during our main youth protection training events that we do annually or as needed. But like what Ryan said, this is a basic overview. So we'll go ahead and touch upon basically everything here. But the main thing here is that we all have a sense of responsibility in protecting our youth. And really, why do we do youth protection? And it's part of it's just part of protecting that keiki, part of protecting that youth. The statement of conduct for working with youth from Rotary International speaks about, and this is exactly verbatim. Rotary International strives to create and maintain a safe environment for all youth to participate in Rotary activities. To the best of their ability, Rotarians, Rotarian spouses and partners, and other volunteers must safeguard the children and young people with who they come in contact with and protect them from physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. This is something that I share in every single training event, training evolution that we have with the district and with our clubs, because it's that important. That statement of conduct is the foundation of why we do and how we do youth protection. One of the key words here is Rotarians, Rotarian spouses, and partners and other volunteers must safeguard. It is not it's a non-negotiable. It's not a should or maybe, it's must. And so we have that responsibility not to stay quiet, not to overanalyze either, but to report and safeguard our children the best that we can. Well, how do we do that? Well, one of the things that we emphasize, we talk about every single training event, and it states it here on Brian's slide, is the youth programs volunteer affidavit for background checks. There's two forms here. There's a volunteer affidavit form, and well, not two forms, a volunteer affidavit form and the background check. Those are two important things that we have here in youth protection. Volunteer affidavit form can be seen in our policy guide, and it is in our Rotary Youth Protection Guide as well. But we primarily use this affidavit for our Rotarian volunteers because we want to know who's volunteering and who our non-volunteers are, who want to volunteer. And we have to understand who's volunteering and working for us, and we want them to understand what the organization expects of them. And so that's why this affidavit is so important. Another key item is background checks. Every one of our Rotarian volunteers should have a background check done. If not, one of the things that we say is to email Natasha Clarence 777@gmail.com. We'll make sure that everyone gets that email, and include your name, your email address, your zip code, city and county. And then you'll get an invitation from me, ypo@rotary-d5000.org. And you'll have a link to go into IntelliCorp's website. That will ask a little bit more questions of you, and you follow instructions for submitting your information, and then you'll pay the fee, which is anywhere between $14.96 to $20.90. Now, it is up to your clubs whether or not they reimburse you or they pay it outright from their budget. So we leave that up to the clubs to know, or figure out. But nevertheless, the background checks are good for 2 years. Background checks are needed for any adult volunteer working with youth. Any volunteer, I would say, that are waiting results of a background check, or a one-time volunteer or a volunteer minor, should always be accompanied at all times by during the event by a vetted volunteer. So that is really important. Any questions on that? If you can't think of any questions right now, I'll make sure that you have my contact information, and you can call me or email me at any time.
Thanks, Peter. I
Yes.
think just a couple of points is that this is something Peter could go on for hours on this stuff. This is super important. There's such a lot to know about this. There's a lot of information and just policies and procedures. There is going to be a required youth protection training in August. I think it's August 10th. Is that right, Naomi? Of this upcoming Rotary year, 9th or 10th, I can't remember. It's going to be a Saturday sometime in August that your club is required to attend, and there'll be a certification form for your club to participate in youth service activities for the upcoming Rotary year. You cannot participate in youth service activities until you sign that form and your club has agreed to it and your club has someone that has attended the youth protection training at that time. So just be aware that that's going to be coming up here in the upcoming Rotary year. And the other thing I just want to say is just one thing that hasn't slipped through the cracks, but has become a point of not issue, but just a point of emphasis, is making sure that when you use photos of our youth, you have their permission and release to use those images. I know everyone loves social media, and there's a social media presentation going on probably right now, but we should not be using any youth images with children without their permission, explicit permission. So one of the practices that my club uses is that when we do our volunteer liability release form with all of our youth before they do a project, we also have a photo release as well theirs, so that's covered. So just more to come, I think, on all of this. Peter does such a great job on this and is available to anyone at any time, really, unless he's working. But please use the resources that the district have to make sure that your events are safe for youth.
Ryan, that's a good point, and thank you for bringing that up. And you're too kind by saying that. I've done a great job. Every year is a learning experience, believe me. But that is just as important as anything else, especially when we're doing media, social media, live streams. There is a section on the training event that I speak about on technology and Zoom meetings and other platforms similar. I do have a media release. I'm going to call it an affidavit, but a form that can be released out to you folks that has been vetted through Rotary International. We can go ahead and send that out to you folks. But what I got from the folks at Rotary International is that if you are doing something that is within the school, let's say interact along the confines of a school program, they usually do a media release for the students at the beginning of the year. So you might want to double check, and that's part of having that relationship with the schools and the organizations that you're involved with. I was involved with Honolulu Rotary and the Literacy Council. Literacy Council had media releases for all the students that came through. So that was one less thing that we needed to worry about. And so when we published things on the website, all we had to do was let Literacy Council know that we plan on putting some pictures on our website. And then they said that they were good with that. So again, absolutely, you always have to cross your T's and dot your I's when it comes to youth services or youth protection. But make sure that we do form those relationships with the organizations that we come into contact with. So moving on real quick, policy book, our District 5000 policy manual that was adopted May 22nd, 2022 is our current policy manual. And this is the manual that I use for everything, including well, I should say in conjunction with our Rotary Youth Protection Guide. It has all the information that we need. It's sort of like our standard operating procedures. You'll be able to find many of the forms that you need for youth compliance, such as I should say youth protections, such as the youth compliance forms, the club compliance statements, and the volunteer affidavits as well. So really important that you crack open the District 5000 policy manual if you have any questions. As you see on the screen there, youth protection guide, that's where we should start in understanding what our youth protection program is. We could utilize this Rotary Guide as a training resource, initial training and refresher training as needed. This guide can also be found in the District 5000 website under the Youth Services page. A very important guide to use. We talked about the compliance form. Compliance form is very important. Every year, I'll go ahead and put a call out for all clubs to submit their compliance form, and this comes after our youth training event. But this compliance form is basically, it's every club's duty. It's a form that the club leadership will sign attesting to their club youth program compliance. And basically it's an attestment saying that you as a club will adhere to the Rotary Youth Protection guidelines. You had a member or representative attend a training event, that you require all volunteers involved with programs to complete a youth protection volunteer affidavit, follow reporting guidelines. So it is more or less a checklist of things that you have to do to get compliant, but not just that. It says that you're signing off saying that you are compliant. Very important. So why do we have to ensure that we're compliant? Why do we want to be compliant with our policies? Again, just like the youth that we protect, it's our duty, it's our commitment. Being compliant with youth protection guidelines, it enhances the trust within our community. It protects our program and our Rotarians from legal ramifications, provides us with standards and controls that keep us professional and keep us a very legitimate organization. We definitely have a brand and a reputation to protect when it comes to us dealing with our youth. But our club presidents, program chairs, officers, and I'll go further to say all our members have the overall responsibility for operating and coordinating club youth activities, including integrating youth protection policies. And how do we do that? We should know, or at least understand or know where to go when we want to look for and look up youth protection policies. Part of what every club has to do is implement training, such as this, screening, program logistics, and I go on further to say risk management procedures. Engage regularly with youth program participants, not just let them roll with it and go, but get some feedback, because sometimes getting feedback helps us to improve as we go. More importantly, report any and all allegations of abuse, harassment, and other crisis to your youth protection officer, which I will disseminate to our club leadership. Utilize 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, and why, to ensure that one person gathers the information. Sometimes when a crisis or incident occurs, everyone wants to put in their input in. We want to make sure that it is accurate so that we can deploy the correct resources as we go. Lastly, best practices and key takeaways, right? A lot of great information here as we go. We love what we do. Sometimes it's very second nature. We want to provide an environment for youth to grow and become productive adults. That's what we do. We want to recognize and address abuse and harassment. Are we all experts? Absolutely not. Have I gone to school and studied youth harassment? Absolutely not. But I've raised 2 daughters, they're adults now, that I know what right and wrong is. I know, and I can recognize what abuse is. So recognizing those and addressing those is very important. Ask yourself and ask your volunteers, or put this out there: is it appropriate to be alone with a child? right? Be aware of local policies, such as policies from the Department of Education. Now, I took a look at our policies here with our youth protection guide versus policies with the DoD. Our policies seem to be a little bit more stringent. We can go hand in hand with them. I say follow both policies, follow the more stringent policy. If one says go ahead and any signs of abuse, call HPD or law enforcement, follow that because it's a lot more stringent. But nevertheless, be aware of the local policies that govern your area, whether or not it's local standard operating procedures for a private school. They may have a set of documents that are more stringent than ours. We want to incorporate it and follow the more stringent of policies. Encourage volunteering. Absolutely. That is a cornerstone of who Rotary. I mean, we're all volunteers. But scrutinize those volunteers. Find out why they want to volunteer in youth services or youth service. Why do they want to volunteer? Just ask the questions. I mean, you don't have to. It's not an interrogation, but we have every right to ask why. Yes.
Yeah, Peter, I've got a couple of minutes left. So, yeah,
okay,
no
quick,
worries.
very quick. Conduct a risk analysis for every activity. Ask yourself this: is hugging or giving a kiss appropriate? We live in Hawaii. It's part of our culture, but is a handshake or knuckles appropriate? No profanity, please. We're the example for everyone. No profanity, no bad jokes. That's all I have. Please call me, text me if you want me to talk to your club. If you have any questions, separately offline, let me know. I've done a few talks already this year to chapters or clubs. I'm here for you. Please use me. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, any questions, I guess, and I just leave it on this slide for everyone to make sure you remind you to celebrate with their youth. It's always an important piece to enjoy what you do and make sure your clubs are having fun. So any questions in the last minute we have? Anyone? I know that was a lot of information to digest. Well, I'll leave this with you in the last minute. It's just as we wrap up this Rotary year, make sure your youth programs are prepared to, transition from this school year to the next school year over the summer. Make sure your Interact clubs have their new officers. Throw them a party. I always do a little pizza party at the end of the year for my Interact club. Have some fun, enjoy, and recognize them. Recognize your youth, because that's so important for our youth today. And let them know they're doing a good job, and that'll set you up for the future and making sure that your programs continue to be successful. So that's what I'll leave you with. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Oh, no, I don't think I gave permission for that. Righty. All right. Well, I'm glad to have everybody here. Let's see. And let me pull up, see if I can do this appropriately. It'll be fun. Okay, there we go. Not really sure. Okay, that'll work. So first of all, let me just make sure. Oh, I need to see if I can put this in slide presentation. All right, are you all seeing the slide presentation version of the PowerPoint? Somebody can. Okay, great.
Yes. And everybody, this is Doug Adams, who was a assistant governor. He is now part of the Hawaii Island mayor's team, and he will be the vocational chair for this coming year. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Naomi. PDG Naomi. Appreciate that. You know, I have to say, as a lead-in, I will walk through some things here. And I'll talk about the title slide here in a second. This area is an interesting one, at least from my vantage point. We focus so much on the other avenues of service, which we'll show in a second. And it's, at least from my vantage point, it's almost a situation when vocational service kind of gets short shrift. And yet, this was the reason that Rotary came together all those many years ago, over a century. Let's walk into it, and thank everybody for being here. I was thinking that if we had like 3 or 4 folks, we might introduce everybody, but in the process, if I could ask, because all I see right now is one little screen. If I could ask somebody, if somebody has raising your hand or you have a question, you know, if you could just let me know, pop in there, just tell me to shut up and that there's a question coming along. I'd be more than happy to take that on. This is designed to be less of a presentation and more of a conversation. So naturally, the way those work with me is I do most of the talking, and then maybe we get to something at the end. So we'll see how that all kind of works out. All righty. In the vocational service area for this particular segment of the spring training assembly, spring district assembly, what was identified was business networking and using vocational skills in Rotary projects. And we will get to that. But I did want to be sure, making sure that the next slide worked. So you see slide 2, yes? Talks about the avenues of service. Great. So the 5 avenues of service, as we know: club service, community service, international service, youth service, which we just had that presentation prior to this one, I believe, in this room, and they did a great job. And then vocational service. And so obviously the avenues of service you all are aware of, pretty important. They all interact. They all have, you know, an inner connection between them. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But the focus on our vocations is something that we're going to talk about today. So starting with the object of Rotary, because this is it, right? So object of Rotary: encourage and foster the ideal service as a basis of worthy enterprise, and in particular to encourage and foster. And I've highlighted the second element here, because that's the piece that's connected in particular to the vocational element of vocational service. And so we see the high ethical standards of business and professions, the recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupations, and the dignifying of each occupation as an opportunity to serve. So this is again, in the definitions for vocational service, you see those same 3 elements again, representing the dignity and utility of one's vocation as an opportunity to serve society, promoting and fostering high ethical standards, and promoting the recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupations. I think it's really important to highlight these areas, and we'll talk about the high ethical standards here in a second. But the dignity, representing the dignity and utility of one's vocation as an opportunity to serve society, that's, I have to say, my perspective, that's really important in this state. There seems to be some concern, and I know that as the director for research and development, which is the economic development organization in the county of Hawaii, we run into a number of conversations where folks will come to the island, or they'll want to have a conversation with me, and the conversation goes something along the lines, we'd like to come to Hawaii, but we really hear how hard it is to do business in Hawaii. And so our ability as an organization to identify and to help folks understand that their vocation is about serving society, in addition to making sure that the economy runs well, making sure that we have jobs for the people that live here. All of that is a part of serving society. It's really important that we carry that forward as Rotarians, particularly in District 5000. So integrity and ethics, right? The four-way test, we're very familiar with it. We say it every meeting, all of us do. There's usually a fifth one here that is the unofficial one at the end. And then also the Rotarian Code of Conduct, which interestingly, I'm not sure that we necessarily speak to that as much, but it starts with acting with integrity and high ethical standards in my personal and professional life. Absolutely how we as Rotarians, that's our reputation, right? That's the reputation of the organization, and that's the reputation of our districts and our clubs and of us as Rotarians. And so then the number 3 there, using the professional skills through Rotary to mentor young people, help those with special needs, and improve people's quality of life in my community and the world. All of the avenues of service are connected to this, but the professional skills piece is a part of the vocational service, that avenue of service. And so our ability to remember and to act in accordance with our vocation and our what we do, the skills that we bring to the work that we do, and bringing that into Rotary so that we can connect with the other avenues of service. Those are the things that really show the integration of both integrity and high ethical standards, which is number 1 in the Code of Conduct, and number 3 in the Code of Conduct that we were just talking about. We highlight those things with the four-way test, but the Code of Conduct 1 and 3 specifically address the ethical standards and acting with integrity as a part of our personal and our professional life. All right. So I've kind of flown through that to some degree to then get us into the conversations, hopefully, about business networking and using our vocational skills in Rotary projects. So business networking, sometimes networking gets a bad reputation. It's one of those things that we think about cocktail hours and I guess Pauhanas in our situation, and it's about you don't really have an eye on the individual that you're talking to because you have an eye on who's next coming through the door, so that you can make sure that you're connecting with those folks as well. I think as Rotarians, we understand that business networking is a little more than that, and in fact is essential to the operation as Rotary. Not just as a service project organization, which of course it's vital that it does that, but it's also about our ability to connect as individuals, so that as we share the efforts that we're making in those projects, we're also sharing our concerns, which can stem both from personal but also professional backgrounds and experiences. So networking involves a lot of times hosting an event. We've all been involved in those kinds of things. It's also, there's career counseling and guidance, and I don't want that to be it's not a matter of, hey, we're sitting a younger person down, or in some cases, somebody like me, we're not sitting me down and saying, okay, I want to give you some information about this. This is about sharing. This is about conversations and dialogue. About, hey, what's happening in your business, and sharing that so that we have an understanding about each other's, and it expands our understanding of what is actually happening in the larger business community and in our society. And then, of course, inspiring the next generation, whether it's our younger folks who are Rotarians or our Rotaract or Interact folks, their understanding of what it means to be part of the membership in Rotary, which there's a focus on our business side, but we also know that we have nonprofit leaders and government leaders that are a part of our organizations as well. So all of our ability to make sure that we're inspiring each other, as well as the next generation is identified here, is a part of what we would identify as business networking. And then the other element here on the vocational skills, using our vocational skills in Rotary projects, each of you has unique skills and talents that you bring both to your personal and your professional lives that you can then bring to the work that we do with Rotary and in Rotary. Some ways of doing that include the lists that I have here: Rotary Action Groups, Rotary Fellowships, international project supports, and then a Rotary Friendship Exchange. What I don't have in here are all the things that we do for community projects, and we know that we're using those skills in a variety of ways. So, for example, I'm really good with a shovel. No, I'm sorry. So, but there are times that we will do projects, and the organizing of those projects will rely on our skills in organization, regardless of what our particular vocation may be. But other unique opportunities, whether it's legal, whether it's financial, whether it's project management, whether it is the specific professional backgrounds that we may bring to our professional side, will also then carry over into the ability to do Rotary projects. So, for example, I know that when we did the international work that we did in Bali, that we had folks that had medical training or logistical training that helped our ability to support that project. This is all part of the use of vocational skills. And let me move on to this. I just wanted to highlight also on the homepage of Rotary District 5000, if you go to news and updates, let's see if this works. Here, if you can see the cursor is news and updates, there's a drop down, which is the Rotary Doing Business, that then shows you all of the variety of activities or particular sectors that you can go to identify folks within Rotary that have that background. Yellow Pages is another way of doing that as well. I'm not clicking on this because this is a screenshot to do it, but that's where you can find that information. And then finally, when we think about vocational service, I just would highlight our ethical, the networking, the service projects, and inside that, also within our Rotary meetings. I'm going to click out of here and put us all on the screen at this point. Let's see if I can, yeah, let me stop sharing. Great. And so I'd like to actually engage in a conversation because my experience, oh, thanks, Dennis. My experience with vocational service really was highlighted by something that I did as a club president, many years ago now. And as those of you, which I assume is probably most of you, have served as club presidents, you know that you usually got to have one or two hip pocket items that you'll have to pull out in case a speaker doesn't necessarily show for one reason or another. So one of those things that I pulled out of my hip pocket one time during my year as a club president was somebody didn't show up, and I was like, it'd be really interesting because we were bringing folks into the club. So we had some relatively new folks, and we had folks that had a lot of experience in the club. It'd be really interesting to share with each other, about each other. And so I voluntold 3 members of our club after we had done the initial activities that we typically do. I said, hey, we're going to have an interview session. And I became whoever your favorite interviewer is. I remember Dick Cavett from back in the day. You all may not. And so brought the 3 folks up, sat them in front of the club. And then I had prepared a list of 4 or 5 questions to just walk through. So I asked them to do a brief introduction. And of course, everybody's pretty humble, so they don't really talk much. So then I asked the questions, which then pulled information out from them. And that turned out to be one of the best meetings that we had all year. And folks were like, hey, we should do that more often. That was really interesting to learn about, you know, so-and-so and what what they do, and, you know, their replies to some of the questions that we had, some of which were personal, but some that were associated with their work. And so, yeah, we kept that. Other club presidents in our Southeastern Club began to do that as well. It became a tradition for us to do, at least for the next few years, as we got to know each other. And so the sharing that that was involved in that, I think, is a key part of the vocational service element as well. We learn more about each other. That can happen both. We can see that happening and being used during our service project piece for our communities and international projects, but it's also the part of socializing with each other, so that if there's an event or some situation that you find at work and you're like, you know, I know so-and-so actually has some experience here, you're able to go to them. And that's a key part of bringing us together as an organization. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask a couple of questions here. So I'm gonna voluntold Vernon Lowry out of Kona Sunrise. Come on down, brother. Yep. Thanks, Vernon. Thank you for volunteering. So first of all, Vernon, what do you do for you know, for work?
Well, I am now retired, but my work is tied to volunteerism right now. But I basically retired from the Army, both as an officer and as a Department of the Army civilian back in 2016, before eventually moving here to Hawaii as a combat engineer commander and also a military analyst.
Well, first of all, on behalf of everybody here, thank you for your service, Vernon, both as an officer, as well as Department of the Army or Department of Defense civilian.
Department of the Army.
Yep. So in the process of doing that, did you discover that it was difficult to connect with community in those positions?
Yeah, it was tough, mainly because we worked in a secure area on a post. So, in fact, I commuted in from my home about 30 miles to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. So I really didn't have a lot of time to connect back home in where I lived. But I did try to primarily connect through a couple service organizations, church and that type of thing. So that's as close as I could get to the community.
Well, that actually kind of goes into the next question I had, which was, how did you kind of overcome? Because service is, I think, a part of your identity and part of your being, as it is everybody that is on the screen here. How did you overcome those challenges? And part of it you just identified with the organizations that you were talking about, making sure that you were part of organizations that had community service as a part of their identity.
Yeah. Again, it was primarily what was available on weekends when I was not drilling with my National Guard unit, and I spent a lot of time traveling. So I connected when I could, especially with my kids and family when they were involved with activities. I definitely try to make that happen.
That's great. All right, Vernon, you can head back to your seat now. Thank you so much. I'm going to call our district governor here. I know that he's active in business as well. And so, Mark, if you would, perhaps give us a little bit of a background on why you chose the vocation you chose.
Wow, thanks, Doug, and I really appreciate the advance notice.
Absolutely. That's how I like to roll.
I spent the first half of my career working professionally for nonprofit organizations. So I've always had a passion for service and helping the community and supporting the community in a variety of ways. And then an opportunity came along to to run a small business. And I just saw that as another way to serve a different kind of community and to help all folks with problem solving. So I own a print shop in downtown Honolulu called Aloha Graphics. I've been doing that for coming up on 30 years now.
So thank you for that. And so as you are engaged in, running this small business, what are some of the challenges that you've discovered in both running the business and connecting some of the things that you like to do in support of community? What are some of those challenges, and how did you maybe one or two of those, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I'm not sure I've overcome them, especially this year, because there's a pretty big time commitment involved with Rotary this year. But it is a balancing act, and as I go around and have the opportunity to talk to clubs across the state, it has to be a balance between your professional work and your personal life, and then the community service component of helping others through Rotary. And to keep that in balance is important for mental health and for happiness, and to have a happy personal life. Some of you might know my wife, Kathleen, sitting in her own little square down there, and we're able to do Rotary together, and that's been a special part of our partnership and relationship.
Yeah, that I'm aware of that, and I know that you were trying to get me to actually move on to Kathleen, but I'm not going to do that to Kathleen. So, but as you have engaged in Rotary, have you maybe your kind of experience with vocational service as a specific area? Is there something that you can recall that sticks out for you?
Oh, no question. In running a small business, a service business, the connections that I've made with Rotarians, mostly through my own club and now through a bigger group of Rotarians, has helped bring customers, developing professional relationships, and in addition to the Rotary relationships within a club. I think the vocational opportunities there are probably not talked about enough in our clubs to professionally network with our own club members, and to use each other as resources out in the community when you need a printer or an attorney or a car mechanic or any of the other many different vocations that are represented in our clubs. It's underutilized resource.
Thank you, Mark. And I appreciate you being willing to answer the questions with no notice. Yeah, unfortunately for Derek Adams, his name kind of sticks out to me. Hopefully he can come online. Or he's going to say, no, I'm not going to come online because I'm not I'm not doing my video. All right. So up there he is.
There he is.
All right.
Aloha.
Thanks. Aloha, Derek. How are you? Unfortunately for you, where Adams is, two Adamses here on this call, and not only that, your first initial is D, just like mine. So I couldn't avoid actually asking you a couple of questions. If you're game.
Well, actually, you should, but that's all right.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So in your first of all, let me ask what your vocation is.
Yeah. I'm you're fading now. I can't hear the question.
All right, not a problem. I understand that the signal is not necessarily the greatest. Hey, thanks for popping up.
I hear you now.
All righty.
All right.
What's your vocation, Derek?
I'm a banker.
That's terrific. Incredibly important work. As you are engaged in that vocation, how have you seen that connect with your Rotary with your Rotary efforts?
Well, I get to meet a lot of people. I'm a lender, so I meet a lot of people all the time, and I always try to mention some of the civic groups that I'm involved with. The Rotary, of course, is one of them. If people have questions, a lot of folks don't know what Rotary is about.
Hey, sorry about that. Thanks for letting me back in. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, so I'm gonna transfer host to you.
Okay. And then I'll share my screen again.
Yeah, and then make me co-host.
Yep. All right. Get the participants back up here. There we go. Make Naomi co-host. There we go.
Naomi, can somebody get me onto room 2 for international
Sure.
service?
Okay. Yeah, we haven't started that yet, but we'll get
Oh.
you into 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I put you in too, but don't join. This
All
will be
right. I
back
will.
out shortly.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Naomi. Yeah. If you want to go to one of the other rooms, because we got about 5 more minutes of the current session.
Okay, I'll just wait.
Yeah, it's actually 10 minutes, but in 5 minutes, I'm going to tell them they're about to get booted.
Okay.
So.
Where am I?
You actually have not joined any meeting yet. Would you like me to assign? You'd like me to assign you to a room?
Yeah, I need to go back to room 2.
Room 2. There you go.
Okay.
So we're particularly concentrating on Palolo Elementary School and Kawananakoa Intermediate School, or elementary, whichever it is. Anyway, so focusing on those educational programs and helping to mentor the kids. Some of our best projects were when we had a member who worked for a playground equipment company, and we put playground equipment at the Ark of Hawaii, and then we also put playground equipment at the women's the jail, whatever the facility is called, right? And we got to see the kids of those women come to visit them and to interact with them on that playground, which made a huge difference to them and their futures. And it also made a huge difference to all of our members. So I think that, without really realizing it, we do vocational service in some form with almost every project we do. And of course, the business networking that we used to have and may still be having that I haven't been involved with, but those business networkings were really a great way to spread Rotary through the community.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate you kind of sharing that with us. And I guess I would ask, rather than choosing somebody, does anyone have, and by all means, just kind of pop on. Does anyone have a particular example that they'd like to share with the group where there was, whether it was a focus on vocational service or not, it was one of those times where the elements of vocational service that we've seen earlier in this little timeline came to the fore and was particularly helpful in whatever was being done, whatever the activity was that was being done. All right, so I'll let you kind of think about that. Yeah, go ahead, Al. Be my guest.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you just fine.
We have one of our Lahaina clubs has adopted support for vocational service as one of their major project areas in the post-fire era. And what they have been doing is creating an application process for individuals who have lost the tools of their trade and have been hampered in being able to get back to work, and then awarding scholarships to these folks to replace their tools. So it is, I think it's an honoring process, honoring the value that these folks bring to the community, wanting them to be productive, showing that Rotary cares, and doing it in a very tangible way that they are allowed to go back and to make a living. So, I just wanted to highlight that because it's something that has been getting a whole lot of goodwill among people who have lost their livelihood.
That's incredibly important, Alan. That's connected. I'm on that large organization, the Maui Economic Recovery Council, and there are at least a couple, and I think more, that are engaged in trying to bring Lahaina small businesses back. And so the efforts that the Rotary groups there, that's just tremendous to hear that support from the civic service side, connecting with some of the other nonprofits and with the what the government's trying to do. Terrific work. Anyone else? Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Oh, in addition, our the foundation committee has created a vocational subcommittee to try to look at how we can impact in the intermediate and long term the ability to train people who are needed for the rebuilding of the West Side community. So this is going to be in the mental health area. We have been identifying groups that we would partner with, particularly UH Maui College, but others. We have a co-chair from the Maui Economic Development Program. And so this is something that we're taking as one of our pillars of rebuilding.
Yeah, that's kind of drop the mic kind of stuff. That's really great, really. Anyone else specifically to that question? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I don't know if this is exactly that, and I'll try to make it quick because I saw the 5-minute warning come up. But I'm the managing director at Alohi Lani Resort in Waikiki, and I also have some help support Royal Lahaina Resort, which is one of my company's hotels on Maui. And after the fire happened, we quickly mobilized internally to get supplies and things to send over to Maui to support the impacted families there. And I mentioned this at my club, Honolulu Sunset Club. I happened to mention it, and they asked me, would I get up and talk about it? I said, sure, this is what we're doing. And I thought, well, and sure, if anybody wants to help, absolutely. I didn't know whether anybody would or not. We were just gathering things here at the hotel. I have to be honest, what Rotary mobilized within literally 24 hours was unbelievable. We were hoping to get a half a container to send over. We ended up sending over 2 containers. Less than a week later, literally 2 containers were shipped over. The amount of people that came, not just from Honolulu Sunset, but all the Rotary clubs here, was unbelievable. The associates here at this hotel, Alohi Lani, were like, who are all these people that keep showing up? I'm like, this is Rotary. And it was really interesting because a lot of people did not know what Rotary does. And this really was, to me, Rotary in action. And it was the absolutely incredible what was accomplished. I don't even have the words for it, and the impression that it made among so many people here and actually in Lahaina, and how quickly it happened was just, it really was unbelievable. That's the best word to use.
Thank you for that, Mike. And I allow me to put my perspective in, but my perspective is that is exactly connected to vocational service. Not just necessarily the donations, but the idea of folks sharing across vocational areas. I'm sure that there were some activities that were involved that involve professional skills. And so we still got 120 seconds here, folks. So that's a perfect example, I think, of how Rotary can come together. So yes, PDG Naomi.
The district has a charter for the Rotary Means Business Fellowship. And so any club that wants to do a networking event should look at that tagline, Rotary Means Business. And Cindy from Eva Beach did one, and Ted helped them with a Facebook push for a month. And so the first week they got 4 people who said, I'm interested in going to that networking. And so they had a good group coming, and that night they had the that networking. 2 of those people joined.
And that actually, I know we have no time, but that actually is the connection with membership that I was going to ask Connie about. So I'll leave it there because I know that we don't have the time and we'll be pulled away from here. But let me just say thank you all for coming to this particular segment. I hope that not just was it about education, but it was also about socialization and a understanding of where vocational service fits within our pantheon of activities. And so, go ask those questions during your meetings about your fellow Rotarians. You may learn something that you didn't know, and that will actually be helpful for the other activities that we have responsibilities to do as Rotarians. So thanks to all of you for being here, and thanks for all that you do for your communities.